morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, the co-creator of Wake Up with Giants TV and A Tribe of Giants, and I am here with Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls, the reason why we have the podcast in the first place. It's a wonderful book. You can go to our website, giantsandsmalls.com, and you can pick up a copy there. That one's the signed copy version. You can get it on Amazon, but it's much funner to get a signed copy from old Nick if you want some sort of his personal touch there. And then on our website as well, while you're there, you can sign up for our newsletter and or take our Giants quiz, and then you'll know what kind of a giant you're feeling like that day. It's actually a pretty dang cool thing. So I've done it, and it depends on the day, and it depends on what I'm feeling, and spits out a result. It's kind of awesome to see like where I'm at. It's like a mood ring.
It's like a mood ring. Yeah. In fact, we should put colors on there, right?
We probably should. That'd be
Yeah.
great. Go do that. Nick also wrote The Tortoise's Hair, and he doesn't have the tortoise's hair background today. We have a bookcase, and it's probably on his bookshelf. But we have we are working on the funding of that, so it's on our Kickstarter. If you go to A Tribe of Giants, you can also sign up for free and join A Tribe of Giants on Facebook, where you can come hang out with us and see what we're doing inside A Tortoise's Hair, because it's such a cool book that's coming out. We're about 60 some odd percent funded. We've got to make a little bit of a push now towards the end. We hit the hump in the middle, and we're going to push it towards the finish line there. So we're excited about that. We are also building an SG interest group, which will probably start sometime in May-ish.
Yep.
So get on that list if you want to be part of our 12 Journeys 8-week course. That's where you would go to giantsandsmalls.com and hop on that SG interest group. And then we're going to doTERRA this week to speak, which is awesome. Wednesday, Thursday, we're going to be speaking to a bunch of their leaders down in southern Utah. So we're excited about that.
I just have to interject here. I saw Peter's water bottle, and I saw a meme this week. It says, if you really want to keep your friends on edge, make your water bottle a vodka bottle. Keep them guessing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. Mine's a Monster bottle.
Yeah,
Really,
there you
most
go.
of the time. It keeps a lot of people on their toes, mostly inside my head. But Nick, do you mind? Is there anything else that I missed, or
No, I think that's it. The only thing I would mention is Stretch Revolution. You can get the daily emails for $7. And so reach out to us and we'll let you know how to do that. I thought it was 84 days. It's actually pushing like 120 days so far, and I keep adding to it.
Oh,
So for $7, you can't beat it. It's
it's like
daily
a value meal
inspiration.
that keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, unlimited French fries, so to speak, right?
Perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah, let's dive in, man.
Yeah.
We've got incredible guests. We're joined by the remarkable Peter Sage. He's a renowned serial entrepreneur, better than being a serial killer. I promise you that.
Yeah.
He's an author, master trainer, international educator, philosopher, and public speaker. And with an incredible career spanning over 2 decades, he's amassed extensive knowledge and experience in human behavior and personal development. And with his energetic and engaging personality, Peter's message is sure to leave lasting impression on your life. So having shared the stage with legends like Sir Richard Branson and Bill Clinton, Peter's teachings are an opportunity not to be missed. And we're glad to have you on the show today. Welcome, Peter.
Wow, pleasure's mine, gentlemen. It's really good to be here. Enjoyed our last little chat earlier in the week, and looking forward to this one.
Yeah, if you missed that one, go back and watch, because we had a panel on Monday. I don't know, that might have been your Tuesday, who knows? But go back and watch that and find that recording, because it was pretty powerful. So,
well, Peter, we're going to dive into your journey. We're going to go all the way back in time, maybe to a point where you were unconscious, living a certain way. When we say non-conscious, that could be at any point in your life where you had an awakening. It might be multiple times through your life that you had an awakening to how you were living and finding out that there's actually more in you. Do you have a point you want to start at?
Hard to say, to be fair. If we want to one of the greatest things I learned from spending so many years with Tony Robbins was he said, if you want to get good at working with people, get good at spotting patterns because there's only so many of them. And I really took that to heart. That's really what shaped my focus on human behavior. And so if I apply that to my own life, looking back, there was definitely a big demarcation point when I was 10 years old. And up to that point, I was in a private school that my parents were working their ass off to try to fund. Yeah, they were working middle class, and never had any advantages. But they didn't want me in the traditional school system because they thought that I wouldn't get a great education, and that generation was bought very much into education equals university equals college equals success. So they put me into a private school, and at 10 years old, they couldn't afford to keep me there. So I dropped into a normal school, and the transition between the summer holidays when I left the kind of the privately educated school where you're virtually guaranteed a college plus education, through to the sort of state school where the teachers aren't really going to push you as much. My parents absolutely drilled into me that if you don't work hard now yourself, you'll probably end up on a park bench for the rest of your life. You'll end up emptying the trash cans of the people that you were just at the private school with. Scared the crap out of me into essentially becoming an overachiever. And I look back at my life and everything from the age of 10 years old onwards, I had to excel, not because I was good at it, because I was scared of what would happen if I wasn't. And really, it was a two-edged sword. Ironically, the only thing I wasn't good at was school. Right? So I dropped out of school at 16. I started my first business as an entrepreneur at 17. And in my early 20s, it had made me successful. I was, bought my first Ferrari for cash at, my early mid 20s. I'm flying Concorde. I'm, doing things that my parents would never have dreamed of. But the real issue was, why was I doing it? I was doing it to try to prove to the world that I was good enough to cover up the insecurities as a young man because I was afraid I wasn't. And that was a big, that was a big pattern for a long time.
Can we hang here for a minute? Because I think some people get stuck here, right? There's a research article that says that people will fight harder to avoid losing $1 than they will to gain $1. And if I look at what you just described there, that you were operating from the fear of something else happening, and that drove you more than the thought of maybe gaining would have given you. Is that accurate?
No, I think I was channeled into the effort as an entrepreneur. So I was definitely working my ass off to build successful businesses. The problem was it was a tunnel with no cheese, because the question I was asking unconsciously is, how can I achieve more? Because as most people, unfortunately, in the example you give, tie their self-worth with their net worth. It's the biggest mistake most people make. Because society, we have benchmarked people on their value by what's in their bank.
That's the measuring stick, right?
But if your self-worth and net worth are tied, you will do almost anything to avoid losing, because the losing money will trigger the fear you're not enough if your self-worth is tied to it. So for me, it was, it made me successful, but I learned a valuable lesson that there is a world of difference between a life-chasing success and a life-chasing fulfillment. And those two are very different animals.
Yeah. Do you want to go into that? What's the distinction?
Well, if you look at most people that are trying to be, let's call it successful, what we've been sold as success, the talk, the money, the house, the this, that, the other. The materialistic aspect. So you can finally prove to a world that really doesn't care, when you strip it away, that, that you're good enough and that you've made it, that you've finally got certainty, fill in the blank. And what I see is what I call the entrepreneurial joke, the cruel entrepreneurial joke, is that even if you hit your magic number, which 1% of 1% of people do, okay, let's say, I don't know, call it $10 million. Right, so it's a magic number for someone, and that's when I'm finally going. That's when I'll class that I'm at the top of Success Mountain, or $1 million, whatever it is for people. And they spend their life sacrificing their family, their health, their time with their kids, so that they can elbow their way up, blood, sweat, and tears, to the top of Success Mountain. And then when they get there, they want to jump off because they don't like the view. Why? Because now, what do you actually spend your money on if you are one of the lucky ones that get your number? I'll tell you what you spent your money on. I spent most of the time counseling them. right? You spend it on, well, your divorce. You spend it on being able to, pay a a personal trainer, or at best, or a surgeon at worst, to get your health back. Yeah, and you try to buy your kids loads of crap so they love you again. I
Huh.
mean, it's you're essentially running east looking for a sunset, and all the while you're blaming your shoes. You're looking for a better personal trainer. You're thinking that if you just find the next key to get the right diet, that'll be it. I'll be able to find my sunset running east that way. When the entire paradigm needs to shift.
Huh. I just had the image of Mount Everest, and you get up there and it's crowded. So you have this imagination that it's just going to be you up there, right? And then you
That
get
sounds
up
like
there
a
and
train
everybody's
station.
up there. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, Everest is like a train station these days. Yeah, why?
Yeah.
Because everybody's trying to prove, something for their profile picture, their resume, or their own ego, that they can do something extraordinary, rather than realize that what's extraordinary these days is leaving your phone at home when you go to a restaurant.
It's true. It makes me laugh
Sounds
because
like
it's
Everest.
true, right? When we look at reality, a lot of comedians are depressed because they see reality as it is, and to speak it like that, it makes you laugh a little bit, because that's not that's not untrue, right? The difficulty is we want to show off what we've done, and then we get up there and everybody's doing the same thing. So, like you said, it's a train station. But jumping off the mountain and looking for the next thing. Oh, if I had this. Oh, if I had this. So you're never in fulfillment. Is that accurate?
Yeah, what you're doing is you are the pattern that most people are running is what I call swimming in goop.
Okay.
GOOP, a really nasty, sticky, potential sucking substance. Goop stands for the good opinion of other people.
Hmm.
And the challenge is that I learned this, fortunately, earlier on. But if I use the analogy, guys, that imagine that you're all starring in a movie. Now, I know that you're all starring in a movie, the movie of your life. And I know that you're the star of your movie, because you're the only person that's in every single scene of that movie. There's no co-stars in the movie of your life. You may have a handful of supporting cast, a spouse, a sibling, a boss, a best friend, or whatever. But the vast majority of people in your movie are nothing more than film extras. Now, what's the definition of a film extra? Easy. Somebody you're no longer thinking about when they're not in your current scene. Now, when we walk around as the star of our movie, it starts to cause problems for many people, because they think that everybody else sees them as the star of their movie. But of course they don't,
Hmm.
because they're starring in a different movie, which is their own movie. Which means, by definition, we play one of two roles in everybody else's movie. At best, for a handful of people, we may be a supporting cast. But the vast majority of people, meaning the vast majority of the people you're trying to get approval, validation, significance, ego stroke, compliments from, are nothing more than extras. We're nothing more than an extra in their movie.
Yeah.
The way to sum it up, if you really want to let go of this, the insight is this, and if people are emotionally mature enough to be able to hear this, it can be transformative. And that is this: most people don't care enough about you to bother to give an opinion. Why? Because they're too busy being worried about what they think you're thinking of them.
Hmm.
Case closed.
Okay, let's wrap up the show. So good job, guys.
You know what? You know what though? You freaking
Yeah.
could. Like I'm sitting here, like I ran out of note space. I've been like, I've got carpal tunnel already, Peter, from taking notes.
We're
But
just warming up.
so, oh goody. So many of us. I better get more note paper. So many of us do exactly what you're saying. I've been there. I catch myself sometimes, uh, falling into that. Uh, like I, there's you don't need to know my whole entire story, and this is your show, but I had some abandonment issues, and those kept coming up, and so then I would use exactly what you're doing. It was never enough because I was trying to keep the approval of others, so that they would never leave me,
Yeah.
so that they would be right there beside me. And it took a lot of people like Nick, a lot of people that are actually in this chat here currently, uh, helping me along the way to see no, you're right here. It's all here. It's not external. Stop chasing that. It's
Yeah.
fulfillment in here.
The number one rule of relationships: nobody can ever love you more than you love yourself. Right? And yeah, after that, well, no, I'll quantify that, because somebody could really love you more than you love yourself, but you're not able to receive or interpret or take on or accept or
Yeah.
appreciate or benefit from somebody else's caring to the extent, more than the extent that you can do it for yourself. And so, it's like number one rule of personal growth. And if you want to just wrap it up on this, it's easy. People will never rise above the opinion of themselves. Right? Case closed. And back to the goop thing. It's like you've got everybody else that's walking around in their bubble of self-importance, thinking, I wonder what everybody else is thinking of me in my bubble of self-importance, not realizing everybody else is walking around in the same bubble,
Same thing.
thinking, what's everybody else thinking of me
Yeah.
in my bubble of self-importance?
I
Right?
had I had the image of collecting disappearing coins. So you just fill in this bag, and every time you fill the bag, that coin disappears. So you're never fulfilled in that bag. It never fills up.
Yeah.
So you're constantly grabbing, right?
Yeah. Or it's like food. I mean, you feel satiated in the moment.
Yeah.
But I got news for you. That's not going to be your last meal. Because at some point your biology is going to say your apostat's time to get hungry again. And what people are constantly looking for is the ever fulfilling meal. And there isn't one if you play that game.
Yeah, the idea of happiness. There's research that said that happiness is meant to be fleeting, because if our ancestors had killed an elephant, they were permanently happy, they wouldn't have killed another elephant and we wouldn't be here, right?
Interesting point. But and again, people search for happiness, in my opinion, because they know they don't want to feel what they're currently feeling, which they interpret as unhappiness. So they look at happiness as the antidote when it isn't. As human beings, we're designed to feel a range of emotions. I don't want to feel happy at my mother's funeral, right? But I was content that there was no unfinished conversation. She was out of pain. There was a different level. There was a natural grieving process, obviously. But it didn't trap me down in grief and resentment and victim for the rest of my life.
Right.
But when it comes to happiness, if you want the key to happiness, I'm happy to share it. It's pretty simple. Think happy thoughts. You want me to complicate it?
Well, you could. We all tend to do that. So if you want to, you can add rules to rules.
Happiness is nothing more than a byproduct of you thinking happy thoughts. Now, the challenge is not, the key to happiness is wondering how to be happy. No, right? I just told you how to be happy. You want to be angry? Think some angry thoughts. It works that way too.
Well,
but
the key to all emotions, right, is thought. Thought leads to emotion.
Follows thought.
Always.
Right? The two that we would call emotions that aren't really, they have a different energetic signature, is unconditional love and gratitude. But that's a slightly different conversation. But everything else, as we feel as an emotion, is an after product of thinking. Every thought produces a chemical, a neuropeptide, a hormone, etc. And that then manifests in the body biochemically as a feeling that we interpret or label an emotion.
Yeah.
So if you want to think happy thoughts, you will feel the emotion of happiness. That's not that mechanism isn't the problem. The problem is what has to happen. What are your rules around what? And listen to the language carefully here. What has to happen in order for you to give yourself permission to think happy thoughts? Because if you've got the game set up that I need to have my mortgage paid off, I need to have everyone within 50 yards not reject me, I need to have the body that on the cover of the magazine, and then I'll be happy. You're in Disneyland. You're playing the game of feel great when, and that is a tunnel with no cheese.
Okay, I don't want to slide past this, because this is really important. I think what I heard you say earlier is that things like compassion, unconditional love, these are things that are at our core. So they're beyond emotion. So they're beyond even thought. But there are other things that are put on top of that create conditions. So I would call those in the world we work in small parts, right? We have these small behaviors, values, and belief systems that we put together that mask that unconditional part of ourselves, that core self. And then those set the conditions for thinking, and set the conditions for emotions, and set the conditions for actions. And so they're not truly ourselves, but we think they're ourselves. Is there a take on that you would offer?
Yeah. It's the software program we're running, which we collectively, or in the Tony world, we call it your model of the world.
Okay.
And if you want to change your life, the most people are trying to control the outer world. Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, if you look at longevity when it comes to health and occupations, there's three that stand out in terms of if you're likely to live longer if you're one of these three. One is an army general outside of wartime. Let's call it that. Although in wartime they're probably way behind the lines, but they're in control of their outer world very much. Another is a judge. Yeah, a judge is in control of their fiefdom, right? Their whole little setup. That doesn't go any higher. The other is an orchestra conductor. Why? They're in charge. When it comes to their occupation, which is where most people experience the most stress, those three have the longest, or the lowest instance of stress or illness related to stress, that kind of stuff, and live longer. You get the idea.
Yeah.
For the rest of us, especially entrepreneurs, right? You're an entrepreneur. What do you get to control? Squat. By design, the environment that you're in is uncertain. There are tennis balls coming over the net from angles you didn't even see. Right? So there's a lot of chaos there. So if you're trying to link your happiness, your sense of fulfillment, your sense of joy, your sense of fulfillment, your addicted to gratitude, to outer world circumstances, you are forever like an octopus with 8 tennis rackets trying to play the game and getting tied up.
Yeah.
If you're an employee, huge amount you can't control. You can't control your salary, your job description, what your middle manager decisions are, the ability of your boss to run his or her company, to give you the longevity for jobs. You get the idea. So most people, if you have a frame or a model of the world that is built around my happiness requires me to have certain things in the outside world fit my pictures, we see where that leads for most people. It's called Prozac.
Yeah.
Right. But if you are then say, well, if I can't control squat, I control my inner world. And if my rules, let's pick an easy one. Let's pick health. If you value health, you could have 2 people value health highly, but the rules around it dictate how you experience it. For one person, it may be that I have to train 3 times a week in the gym, eat organic food, and drink 2 gallons of water a day, whatever it may be. Right? Now, what happens if they miss a workout that week? They feel like crap. You could have somebody else say, well, in order for me to experience the value of health, I need to take a deep breath. Every time I take a deep breath, I choose to feel healthy. Doesn't mean they're letting themselves off the hook for not training. Right? That's just part of your discipline. But
Right.
your rules around what has to happen for you to give yourself permission to fill in the blank. And most of us have that game scrambled. And conversely, stuff you don't want to feel, anxiety, stress, depression, worry, you've got the game set up by design that it's going to be triggered constantly, because as long as the balls aren't coming over the net at this speed from this angle, then I'll be happy. Right? And of course, we can't control it.
And that ties into the ideas of what we think others are thinking as well. That anxiety is, we want to also control what they're thinking, but we don't know what they're thinking, but we want to act like we know what they're thinking, and we're interpreting from our own point of view what that might be, right? So we're projecting and then judging them for the movie, like Byron Katie says, that they're playing or we're playing in their mind, right?
Creating stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, go back to the abandonment issue. I mean, what we're doing is we're trying to fit into what we perceive to be other people's attraction strategies, other people's approval strategies. We don't know what they are. We're just taking a guess through projecting our model of the world onto them and trying to play that game, which doesn't work.
It's exhausting.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I said to people, how's it working for you?
Yeah.
It didn't.
And to an extent, some people have to hit their head on the pavement and the sidewalk often enough to learn how to tie their shoelaces. I mean, a lot of the time, our greatest lessons and gifts come out of the struggles we have through figuring that stuff out ourselves.
So there's a couple of words that are coming to mind here: perfection, success, failure. Perfection comes from the Latin perficere, to perform and to complete. That's what it means. Success means a positive yield from our efforts. Failure means a negative yield from our efforts. But we put conditions on all of these things of, I'm a failure, right? As though nothing I do yields any positive results. Or I need to be perfect, not realizing that perfection comes from completing things. And so we stay in this constant state of non-completion in pursuit of maybe some acceptance and acknowledgement from somebody outside of us that goes back to what we were talking about. What does that bring up for you?
Let's talk about perfection.
Okay.
Any perfectionists in the house? I'm sure we've probably got a few watching in on there. I hate to break it to you, but in 30 years experience of doing this, the conclusion that I reach is there is no such thing as perfectionism. And it's actually a label that people use to adopt some moral high ground in order to avoid calling it what it is. Would you like to know the real name for perfectionism, in my view?
Would love to.
Yes.
It's called scared of screwing upism.
Yeah, I didn't want to fail or let my because of the abandonment, because I had this thought of like, hey, if I don't live up to XYZ and get everything that my dad had, which was family, cars, house, certain amount of money, a certain status, then I'm a failure. He's not going to love me, and it'll all come crumbling down. Which
Primary fear
was
we all
which
have.
was which was insane. It's insane. My dad loved me no matter what. I made it all up.
Yeah, of course. It's the primary fear. The primary fear we have as human beings is the fear that we're not enough. Not good enough, not tall enough, short enough, rich enough, fill in the blank. Yeah, if you haven't got a blank to fill in, your ego's playing hide and seek with reality. Now, but perfectionist, I'm scared of screwing up. So, and if I do, you won't love me. If I do, you won't approve of me. If I do, you won't accept me. So what I'll do is I'll strive for this level of perfectionism under some moral high ground of thinking, well, that's just a way where I can try to be better, when really the pattern that's driving it 100% is fear, not growth. Perfectionism on growth, and people that are driven by growth realize there is no perfectionism. Growth is an ongoing process. But it's like shy, and any shy people in the house. Let me solve shy for you. Now, what's shy? Shy is, please don't let you discover me because I'm scared of what you'll judge. That's it. Oh, no, I'm just an introvert. No, you're not. Get in the game. Right? You're just scared of saying something that somebody disagrees with. Yeah. Oh, I'm just shy. No, you're petrified of rejection. That's your issue. Deal with that.
There are a lot of those I am statements, right? I am not confrontational. I am this. They're conditions. You start to notice people's rules for life and their beliefs and statements by what they say around that I am. I'm this. And everybody else is expected to believe that.
No, the ultimate identity. I am, full stop. See, who are you without your name? Okay, come back in the room. Now, when you realize that your primary identity, which is your name, you didn't even choose, by the way, right? But when you realize that anything that comes after I am starts to dictate behavior, starts to dictate circumstance for you based upon how you engage with what comes after it. When you say I am, full stop, I'm okay with who I am. Now I'm free to choose what comes after it. I am an entrepreneur, but if I need to define myself as an entrepreneur in order to be good enough so that then I'm comfortable with I am, you got the cart before the horse, right? You're freaking awesome. You're magnificent. And it's not even down to your results or your body. Someone say, oh, I'm fat. No, you're not, right? You've made decisions over a period of time that have culminated in the current physical expression, but that's not who you are. That's just an example of the decisions you've made, most likely influenced by media, convenience, and budget, or lack of education, right? But
and preference on pastries.
And a preference on pastries, right?
Continue. Yeah.
I just had one thought too, like as you were saying that real quick, just there's the wake up moment. There's the, okay, if you don't know you're doing this, you don't know you're doing this, and you'll just keep running on that hamster wheel at a million miles an hour, and there's going to most likely be a crash and burn, or a hit in the head, something. For me, it was, I hit a success status in money that was greater than my dad's, and he says that, and I thought there was gonna be like angels from heaven, like,
Unfair.
oh, you've arrived, like some. I was like, yeah, and then I'm like, Nothing changed. I'm still not happy. I thought I'd be happy when I surpassed my father,
Where's
and
my
nothing
sunset?
changed. Yeah, where what? The cheese in the tunnel, no cheese,
Yeah.
and it hit me like a ton of bricks. Well, then the changing I would imagine could be a little bit different from for a lot of people because there's probably a point where you feel like a fish out of water. You're floundering, flopping on the ground, trying get grasping for straws or air. So how do you transition from that to creating I am statements and starting to find the fulfillment with it? How do you do that?
So bring it back to some basics. We've got a couple of key moments in a human being's life when they transition from the kind of victimhood that most people are in to a level of emotional maturity that allows them to prosper in line with how you're sharing it. One of the first ones is the day where you finally become okay not being liked. Yeah, that's what I talk about goop. All right, when you're finally okay not being liked, somebody comes up and calls you an asshole. Guess what? It's not about you. Right now, if that's consistent feedback and you want to have a look in the mirror about you doing something inadvertently to violate other people in a way where you weren't aware of, great. That's just good feedback. But generally speaking, everybody's projecting their own model of the world, and you can either go into a argument with that to prove why you're not an a-hole, or you can turn around and look at that person from compassion and be like, wow, this guy's doesn't even know me, is verbally vomiting all over me in a way that really shows his pain. All right, I'm there for the grace of God, go I. And being okay not being liked allows you to rise above the incessant defend and conquer mindset that most people have when it comes to their own insecurities and ego. The second key point.
Before you move on, I want to anchor that in with, people probably called Jesus an asshole or Buddha an asshole, right? In that sense, because they had these opinions.
Yeah.
And so I just anchor that in. It has nothing to do with that person or us. It's what's going on in the person across from us.
I live on a relatively small island here in the Canaries. Yep. Yeah, I drive a McLaren, right? And as I go around the island, you can have half the people look at that from a place of jealousy and half from a place of being inspired as to what's possible. I bounced back, landed here 4 years ago, $250,000 in debt, 1 month rent in the bank, and a picture of that car on my fridge, right? I know how to bounce. But when you see somebody that looks at it from that perspective, I always come back. Your opinion of me is none of my business.
Yeah.
When you look at it from that place, I don't have to go prove myself. Nothing to defend, nothing to conquer, nothing to prove. I'm busy trying to live my own truth. Am I going to be perfect? Hell no. Am I going to fall over? Yeah, that's where we learn to get back up. If I get every answer right in class, I'm in the wrong class.
Some people may think that it takes like it's going to happen instantly. Okay, this process could take a little bit of time because for me, I had 38, 39 years of operating a certain way, and it took a little bit of time to start changing the results. I started stepping, and I failed a lot in this process, but I surrounded myself with people that saw me as what we call giants, right? Giants within, that started helping me to shift that mindset because it was a habit. It was an operating system that I had held on to for so long, and I still every now and again catch myself. Now I catch myself more often than not, but occasionally, like Nick will remind me. Nick spends the more time than just about anybody with me, and he'll see something and he'll say something. See something, say something. And I just wanted to interject some grace. Make sure you have some grace for yourself as you're going through this process because it could change. It's going to change your whole paradigm of what you thought was true all this time. Might not be as true as you thought, and so that there can be some grief surrounded, in that.
Cutting yourself some slack is required. Although to back up your point, when you can come from a place of knowing that the first belief that you want to question is the one you're most certain about, it gives you permission not to be dogmatic. And the good news is that for me, the system has built-in feedback. And we talk about, what can a person do? The transition point is essentially when you stop focusing on yourself and start focusing on what can I do with the gift that I've got. What difference can I make? Not what can I accumulate. And for me, you'll see that you have givers and takers. I'm not talking about how do I give so that people will like me. I will give so that people won't reject me. That's a different pattern. That's the martyr pattern. But when you look at emotional maturity, how do we really start on this track? I'll be honest, the vast majority of stress for most people, or depression on most people, is they're too focused on themselves. And I say that with love. Anxiety is the emotion of growth if it's unresisted, if it's not about you and your sob story. But if you're committed to playing victim versus understanding that life is a growth-centric experience, not a comfort-centric experience, then you have a way out of what you perceive to be your hole. And you got to, if you were born an athlete, you didn't know.
It's a perceived hole, right? It's probably not even a hole.
Self-created. But if you were born an athlete but you didn't know, imagine that. And you put in the gym 3 times a week, and you've got this person called a personal trainer that you think is a psychopath, that's getting you to lift weights till your arms hurt, run on the treadmill till you throw up. It's not a fun experience. You'll do anything to avoid it. You'll hide behind the weight stack, or if you get found, you'll do just enough to tick the box to say you've done the workout, because you've got no understanding that life is growth centric. You're looking at it through the illusion of a comfort centric lens. Now, let's just say that you're an athlete, and you're an athlete, and you're here to get the gold medal. I've got news for you. You don't approach the gym like you want to hide behind the weight stack. In fact, if you're not throwing up in 30 minutes, you want your money back, right? It's because you're seeing it for what it is. And when we realize, we're born athletes. How do you get better? Well, go to the body. You push it past its comfort zone, and it's programmed to return with a better version of itself. That's the rule set. But if you're looking at your challenges, your divorce, your health problems, your whatever it may be, your financial issues, through the lens of the muscle fiber, then you're on that last burning rep, which not every part of the workout is. We perceive it because we focus on it because it's where we think the pain is, right? But if you're on that last burning rep, what's the muscle fiber doing? It's sending messages to the brain. Stop. What the hell are you doing? I'm being broken down here. All this kind of stuff. But if you're looking at it from the mindset or the perspective of the athlete, you're proud that you can bust out 2 more reps and not lift your arms for 20 minutes. The question is, where do you want to live in life? Do you want to be the muscle fiber? Do you want to be the athlete? Because it's the same gym. It's the same workout. You're coming at it from a place of, I need to be able to grow because it's a growth-centric experience and we grow through challenge. That's not tough. And there's feedback. Right? I say, I'll leave this as a metaphor and then we can discuss. Right? If life is the perfect kitchen, it's got all the ingredients, it's got the gas, it's got the hob, it's got the pans, it's got the stuff. There's a lot of people bitching about the fact they're hungry. Now, there's a feedback on a rule set that says if I overcook the pizza, I get burnt pizza. So I can work with that. That's great. If I oversalt the food, I get salty food. I can work with that. If I was to overcook the pizza one time and it came out frozen, I'd be confused. Right? That's a funhouse reality rule set. No, we live in a place that has a rule set. So if you're depressed, great, the system's working. What part of the pizza have you overcooked? Right? It doesn't happen. People say, I've got cancer. I'm like, well, you don't have cancer. Yes, I do. Here's my scan. Oh, no, your body has cancer, right? You don't have cancer and you're not your body. But that aside, rather than try to go fight the cancer, have you ever sat around the same side of the table and asked it what it wants? What kind of feedback is it looking at? You look at every study that's been done on spontaneous remission outside of chemo from stage 4, and there is one common pattern. And no, it's not plant-based diet. It's not meditation. It's not crystals. It's not being vegan, and it's not running off gluten-free. Right?
I'm sad about it not being crystals a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Right? One common denominator. Every single person that experienced a significant spontaneous remission from stage 4 cancer came to a place where they were grateful for the disease. They were no longer fighting, and they didn't actually really attach much significance to whether they stayed or whether they didn't, right? They were actually at peace. Oh, hello. What do you think the cancer was there for? What kind of rumble strip at the side of the freeway is it to try to get your attention about you've not let go of the resentment of your dad for the last 20 years, that you've still bitching about your ex-wife and what she took in the divorce for 3 years ago, that you're still blaming yourself for something you did X amount of years ago. Some level of unresolved emotional blockage that is manifesting in physical form. And then you start to realize that if I'm able to see every obstacle in my life as the food on the table, and if it's not tasting how I want, what part of the rule set is it teaching me? What can I learn from that to readjust, rather than say, oh well, my life is freaking supposedly going to get burnt pizzas for the rest of it. Screw this, I'm at it. There's better ways.
Frozen burnt pizzas.
I want to hit on the ideas here, because you're hitting on abundance, you're hitting on uncertainty, you're hitting on gratitude. Gratitude is the acknowledgement of what's good, and it's foundation for abundance. And then you move into the unknown, and most people are looking at the unknown. They walk into that kitchen and it's fully stocked, right? If we think about the world is fully stocked with everything we need, all the opportunities, materials, resources, people, all here, right? But we walk into this kitchen and we say there's nothing to eat, right? There's no food in the kitchen, yet it's stocked with recipes as well. And we could pull any recipe and build it off of the recipe. Or if we want to get creative, we can take the resources that are already in there fully stocked and start to create with those whatever we have in mind. We might come up with some concoction that's terrible or good. It doesn't matter. You're creating, right? So the idea of gratitude, going back to gratitude as a foundation for all abundance, it's acknowledging that that's all there. It's acknowledging that there's good in the world. It's acknowledging what you can make of what's already around you. And I think that's where people miss when it comes to abundance. Do you want to take off on that?
100%. I've always said that abundance is nothing more than the feeling of gratitude. Wealth is nothing more than the perception of abundance triggered by gratitude. Right? Is the accurate quote that I use. Poverty is nothing more than the perception of scarcity, usually triggered by fear. Okay. Now, if you say to people, people are worried about money, right? And I just had this conversation with my trainers a few hours ago. And people say, I don't have enough money. I'm like, hang on a minute. There's been more money printed in the last 10 years than pretty much existed before that. You've got more opportunities to benefit from that with lower barriers to entry than at any point in human history. Especially in the UK. I mean, obviously we have a lot longer history when it comes to economy, but for the vast majority of that, you were either in the lucky sperm gang or you weren't. Right? You could be the most entrepreneurial peasant in the field. You ain't getting a house. That's the landlord. But America's different. You pretty much put a stake in the ground and figure it out yourselves. And that's why success is a lot more rewarded. It tends to be more in the North American model than it is in the sort of historically have-not model. But if you say, well, I don't have enough money, it's not because there isn't enough money, right? You don't have a money problem. You have a story about money problem. You address that over your limiting beliefs, over what you think money is, over your sense of self-worth, or your understanding of what wealth and abundance truly is. Then you'll start to have more abundance in your life. But if you're going to turn around and say, oh no, I've got this kitchen apparently, but unless there's a Michelin star chef show up and cook it for me, I'm going to complain. Well, yeah, you'll get feedback. It's called hunger. It's like, the game doesn't work that way. We're here to grow up.
I've got this thought too. I want to interject. Hang on to what you're going to say. So I want you to continue. Okay. Imagine you have this recipe and you put in all the ingredients and you go pour it into a bowl and there's nothing. Like it disappears. There's nothing. You do all this effort and energy and there's nothing there.
That evaporates before it
evaporates, right?
The pan.
That doesn't happen. What happens is that people think they're dreaming and putting ingredients in, but they're not actually doing the ingredient. They're not actually taking the actions, right?
Yeah. Great distinction.
Yeah. We really, anytime we put effort in, you're going to have a yield from that effort. it's either going to be too salty, overcooked, undercooked, frozen. It doesn't matter. You're going to create a yield, and then you can adjust from that yield. But what people do is they take that yield and they judge themselves for what they yielded.
Yeah. Or they use it as a story as to show why they'll never be a chef.
Yeah. And therefore they are not, because of the condition they put on that, right? So they're justified, right?
Yeah, it's the wrong oven.
Yeah, it's the wrong oven. I didn't have the right gloves.
That's
right. I need better oven mitts.
But you have feedback.
Yeah.
As I say, someone coming up to me, you're two guys, say, hey, you can help me. I'm depressed. I'm like, oh, excellent. Are you celebrating? So what do you mean? I'm like, well, if you're depressed, then the system's working. Well, what? I mean, well, are you currently focusing on what you can be grateful for? Are you looking at life through a lens of possibility? Are you focused on what you can contribute or look for where your gifts are that we can develop? No. Oh, great. Then you should be depressed. Right? Because that's what happens. I call it the rumble strip on the side of the freeway.
Yeah.
See, the rumble strip on the side of the freeway is there to get your attention if you are daydreaming. And what do most people do? Let's use health as an example. So I'm driving down the road. I'm just, doing what I'm normally doing. And I start to drift off. Now I'm ordering, too many cheeseburgers, or I'm not taking my vitamins and greens, or whatever it is. And all of a sudden, and I'm listening to my music and not paying attention to the road as a parallel. The next minute, you hit the rumble strip. You may get a pain in your chest. And what do? You think, what do most people do? Well, that's interfering with my music. So you turn your music up. Right? You go to the doctor, I want a pill. Right?
Drown it out, right?
Right. It's like, or, your partner is just disengaging sexually. And, you're blaming her, or the other way around or whatever. And you're not listening to the rumble strip. You're staying late in the office. You're ignoring, it's all about you. You're not putting the time and effort in. And that rumble strip is there for a reason. You want to fix it, go buy something. Come on, guys. Right? No. Right? What you want to do is start to pay attention as to what is the rumble strip telling me here? I'm not being present enough. I'm starting to take my partner for granted too much. I'm looking at life through a lens of self-centeredness rather than realizing that I've got a partner here that is, that really wants to be there. So, that rumble strip is there for a reason. And if all of a sudden you're surprised because you get a divorce letter one day, right, because you went off the verge because you weren't listening to the rumble strip, don't blame your freaking wife.
Rumble strips are there to tickle your tush, wake you up.
They don't tell you, hey, you need new tires, the rumble strips. They don't say, oh, it's time to get a new car. They don't say anything like that. It's just simply you've gone off track a little bit, right? What a beautiful analogy. It just really highlights that we ignore it. I mean, if you ignore the rumble, you're going to go off the road. What is the sound the
rumble strips make again?
There you go. Not the money people hear.
I just needed to record that for a book we're going to do now called The Rumble Strip.
I say most people listen to the music, they don't hear it.
Well, let's continue on that road, because there are elements of this, of surrender, serendipity, magic, the quantum world of the universe, and how that works and comes together, how there's an interconnection between things. And we can't always see the path on how our vision is going to come about, but it's connected the moment we attach to it. And maybe you've got a version of that. And then the nurture component, which we feel like are the double helix of creation, the DNA of it, is that there's a blending of the world of the magic, but also your self-care and self-growth, that your ability to tune in and then grow in capacity also plays into your ability to see the serendipity of the world. Maybe you have a different take on that.
Well, if you want to open that door, that's the world that I spend a lot of my time in, but you've only left me 10 minutes for it. So, you're going to have to
see how you do.
Let me give a basic model I think will help a lot of people here. Einstein turned around and said something very profound, but most people didn't really have the context to understand the level of profundity around it. And he said that you can't solve a problem at the same level of consciousness that created the problem. Most people don't know how to interpret or unpack that. It sounds smart, but what does he mean? Because to a biologist, left brain is on one side. Consciousness is nothing more than a byproduct of brain function, which we know it isn't. The brain doesn't produce consciousness any more than a radio writes music. But when it comes to the other side, a lot of people are too nebulous. It's the come by our sing with the divine, let's all go meditate crowd, and people can't pay their mortgage with that. So looking at it on a practical perspective, I kind of chunk it into 4 levels of awareness, 4 levels of consciousness, of understanding, to give some meaning. The first level is the level of what I call to me. And it's the mantra goes something like this: I would have the life, I would have the body, I would have the relationship, I would have the car, but everything happens to me. It's the quintessential victim mentality. Now, we know that you're going to get a lot of cold pizzas from that, and at that point, you may want to start waking up a little bit. So there's the kitchen's trying to tell you something. So at that point, most people that get out of victim mode go up to the next level, which is where the vast majority of personal growth steps in, which is the achiever mode. And I call that by me, because you realize that to me sucks. Yeah, but if I am going to have the body, the house, the car, the life, the whatever, then it's going to happen by me. Yeah, the oven doesn't cook itself. Right? It needs some work in the kitchen. So I go out and I start hustling, and I start learning, and I start investing in myself, and I start doing something far better than to me. Now you're actually putting ingredients together and trying combinations and seeing what you can do. It doesn't mean you're a chef yet. The problem with by me is that it's pretty exhausting. And when the vast majority of people that come into my world are what I call frustrated by me. Yeah, they've been in there. They've attended the seminars where they've been told that if they just work 10 times harder, they'll make it. Right? Just run up the mountain, keep running east, looking for the
your efforts. Right?
Yeah, and all of that kind of stuff. And they're like, I can't. I'm out of effort. I'm out of energy. I haven't got 10x more hours in the day. Right? But they're still unfulfilled. And that's where they start opening up to the next level, which is the level of through me. Through me is where you're no longer trying to bend the world into shape. You're not swimming upstream. To me, victim mode is standing on the side of the river, blaming the river for not bringing you all the fish. Right? By me is like, screw this, I'm going to dive in and swim hard and get my goal. But it's exhausting. A lot of the time you're swimming upstream, you're swimming against the current. As soon as you take your foot off the gas, you backslide. Through me is where you're actually moving with the current. Yeah, you're not fighting the current, you're using your energy to position yourself better in the current. And this is where we start looking at metaphysics at a whole different level. When we understand the quantum field as best of what we can use our third dimensional mind to label it as, we understand that the universe is actually not locally real. That's already been validated with Nobel Prizes now. But when we realize that there is a higher level of intelligence that's working with us, if we are in alignment, then you can start tapping into a whole different series of allowing the current to take you. For example, the universe operates on a very interesting principle in the physical world. In by me, you're in the physical world. You're trying to grab the world by its throat, and then you wonder why it resists. Right? Just as grab somebody else by their throat, see if they resist. And you are operating through what you've been taught to be called path of shortest distance. I set goals. What's the fastest way to get them? What's the smartest way? Blah, 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 blah. And so let's say you're sailing down the river of life and you're sailing south towards your goal. And all of a sudden the river bends east. Whoa, this is off track. So what do? You pull up to the bank where the river bends, you get a shovel, you start digging a channel continuing south through the bank to try to go to your goal. Well, the universe doesn't operate on path of shortest distance. That is a concept that works on two-dimensional paper between two dots.
Real linear thinking, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The universe is non-linear.
Yeah.
The universe works on path of least resistance. All right. You look at electricity. It's part of the non-physical.
Yeah.
Right. To an extent, one of the non-physical force. But you could have a circuit, any engineers, electricity engineers in the room, you could have a circuit that is 6 feet long with a bulb, and you could draw another wire 2 kilometers around that. It will take the 2 kilometer, we call it a short circuit, right? Because there's less resistance to it. Even if it's 2 kilometers further for the electricity to travel, it'll travel that way and not light the bulb to complete the circuit, rather than take the 3-yard circuit with the bulb in, because it operates on path of least resistance, not path of shortest distance. And so when we're working with the quantum field, when we're really working in through me, where life is flowing through you, then it's about sailing with the bends. You're practicing conscious non-resistance, not as a doormat, taking your hand off the wheel of the boat and say, well, inshallah, if I hit the rocks, I hit the rocks. It's God's will. That doesn't work. No.
I was like, where did I hear conscious non-resistance from? I swear that's super familiar. Yeah, it's from Monday. It's from
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
Like,
you go.
yeah, this is ringing true.
Yeah.
Well, I want to hit on this. Hang on to that. I don't want you to forget, and let me know how we're doing on time. So I'm going to get to the point here. Fractals in nature, river systems, networks, lightning. They all flow in a fractal nature. Plants, trees, they all do the same thing. It's flow of least resistance, right? They find the most non-resistant path. Even though there is some resistance in there, they flow through that. And our bodies are designed that way. Our cellular systems are designed that way. The universe, the solar systems, all of it is on this fractal model. And that's where, when you say our dreams and visions come through us, we're like the pen, the fountain of the pen, and it flows. The ink flows through us into creation, right? Rather than us forcing it. Maybe
I'll see if I can tie it in the final parts of the show.
You're going to be amazing. I believe in you.
If we go to evolution, if you ask the question, what is the purpose of life? Now, there's a lot of people that have had that comment thought, but I want to give a bit of a perspective on it, if I may. Let's go back 400 million years of fossil records. You start out with something like a single cell organism, an amoeba. And right now we're looking at the pinnacle of evolution as it currently stands, which is a $50 trillion human body, right? Now, if you take 50 trillion amoebas and put in one food source, what have you got?
A lot of amoebas.
Yeah, you got war, right? 50 individual cells fighting over one food source.
Yeah.
Survival of the fittest, Darwinian mentality, that kind of stuff. Now, if you take the human body with 50 trillion cells and you put in one food source, I'll tell you what doesn't happen. You don't get the liver and the kidneys ganging up against the spleen and the heart to try to get more hemoglobin, right? That doesn't work. What allows evolution to follow its path is cooperation. In other words, evolution is the progression of higher levels of complexity that is enabled through and only through cooperation. Okay? You had 50 trillion cells fighting over your Big Mac, and you're going to not last long. Not that you'd last long anyway, eating Big Macs, but you get my point.
Yeah.
Right. So if you take the word cooperation and you extrapolate that to its logical conclusion, you pretty much hit one word, ladies and gentlemen. I think we call it love. Why are we here? We're here to learn how to love. Now, when you realize that everything that you talk about fractals, why did we create schools? We're in one, right? Why do we create the Hollywood and the movie industry, right? It's a perfect representation of us as the star of the movie of our life. Now, the challenge is people get caught up because they're too identified with the character in the movie of their life, currently known as Ryan, for example, or Pete, as opposed to the actor, your consciousness, that is playing the current character called the movie of your life. And at the end of this movie, let's go back to the achievement, and I need more stuff than dad so that I can feel worthy of dad's love, right? Do you get to keep any of the props in this movie when you go to the next one? No. If you're in the Fast and the Furious, you get to drive some pretty cool stuff on set. But try turning around to the executive producer and saying, right, I finished the movie, but can I get to keep the cars? No. Right? Sorry, Rock, that's not going to happen. Right? It doesn't work that way. Your job as an actor, in my view, you want come to a week-long seminar so you can finally get the realization, but you guys are smart, so we'll do it at the end of the hour. Right? The reason we're here is to learn to choose love over fear in ever more challenging circumstances. Welcome to Earth School. That's fits every aspect of what I look at when you're dealing with the movie of your life, the reason you're here. What do we get to take with us at the end of this movie, by the way? Because you don't, again, use the fractal of the movie industry, because it's a great parallel.
Yep.
You don't get to take any of the props. You don't get to take your character that you were playing in one movie into the next. What you do get to take with you is your accumulated acting experience, i.e., your level of consciousness with you. Old soul, new soul, pick a language pattern, right? And the reason you don't want to remember any of your previous movies is because it would confuse the hell out of you in this one. You're too busy trying to learn your own lines right now. Why would you want to try to fill your head with the lines in the previous movie? It kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to steer anyone into different thoughts around their own belief system or religion or higher power or spirituality. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to get you to think in ways that allows you to be empowered to pick an interface so that your model of the world can allow you to be a better version of yourself.
Perfect. Peter, give us a closing statement. What have you not shared today that you'd like to share as a wrap up for those that are watching you and your message today? What would you like to say to them?
You were already born good enough. 400 million sperm, you won. You were born with a gold medal better than any ratio of Olympian you could possibly think of. You've got nothing else to prove. You're here to learn, to explore, to have fun, to fall over, scrape your knee, learn from it, get back up, right? But if you are playing the game of feel great when, fill in the blank, instead of playing the game of feel great now, no matter what, then you're always going to be on that back foot. Know that you're good enough. Know that you are love, right? You are money. Don't try to get money. You are money. You are abundance. Yeah, you don't have to try to prove you're good enough. You were born good enough. When you own that at even of a fraction of an emotional level, your life will completely shift, and what used to stress you out will light you up.
Beautiful. Ryan, any final thoughts?
Like I feel like at the end of these, I usually spend some time acknowledging the person that's sitting across the room, and I am grateful, Peter. You don't need my acknowledgement, and but what I do want to say is that I'm so grateful for the experience that you've learned and the things that you've been through to in this life school to be able to share it with others so that they can wake up, so that they can see things differently, so that they don't get to the top of Everest and look around. Well, actually, maybe we do want them to get to the top of Everest and look around and go, crap, it's crowded. What the heck? Because that could be their waking moment. Just like me, where I hit my Everest, I was above and beyond where my dad was financially, and was like, I was left wanting and going, wow, that's not the model that I want. You get to choose in this life school. And if somebody would go back, we say this a lot, you could just have this recording of Peter Sage, and you can learn uh, that everything is right here. I like that. You were one of the 400 million sperm. You won everything it's done. It's complete. You don't have anything to prove. I love that. And I am learning to see that and feel it and to know it. And that's my hope for everyone else that's watching, to get to that place where you feel it, you know it, and then you live it. And so thank you for Peter for the time, because that is so on point with what we're trying to teach people, that they're a giant already. So thank you.
That's why I said yes to coming on the show. I love what you guys are doing. I love what you stand for. I love the path that you've walked and the message you give from that place of authenticity. So it's been a real pleasure, and I'm sure we'll run it back at some point.
We will. We'll do this again. There's so much more to share, right, Peter? We barely tapped the iceberg here. And for those that are watching, as we always say, you're exactly with the X. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. You are where everything flows from. So the giant is already in you. You are already that. And so what we're unbecoming is all of the smallness that we play into, that we believe, the conditioning we put on our world about how it should be, the external locus of identity and control. the more you can release that, the more your inner giant just comes out. You're already love, you're already compassion, you're already curious. Those are natural and innate. There's nothing to earn there, like you said, Peter. And so that's our hope, is that you recognize you're already the giant. Stop playing small. Let's help you do that. So we appreciate you. Thank you for being on our show. For those that are watching, we always love your comments. We hope you'll share this with your friends and family and loved ones who can be benefited by this message. And as always, we'll see you in the next episode. Go make it a giant day.
Love you too.